Welcome everyone to another Conversation in the Void. We're doing a special Sunday episode as we do these every now and then. I'm excited for tonight's guest. I've been talking to this gentleman for a number of years over multiple platforms. He's a writer, actor, improv king, YouTube personality, and of course, one of the guardians of our Palaxy. Please welcome to the show, the one and only Tommy Bechtold.
Hello, what an introduction. Thank you very much for that. I'm all excited now. I feel like a king.
Well, of course. I mean, like I said, we've been talking for numbers, through Tiger Cave and all your other shows. How you doing today?
And thank you very much for always being such a good friend and supporter. I'm doing great. Just saw Snow White with my niece. She loved it. I thought it was very cute. My review is that if you have a child in between the ages of 6 and 10, they will love it. And if you're an adult that can tolerate those movies, you'll enjoy it.
So what you're saying is when my daughters make me watch it, I'll be okay.
Yeah, there's enough funny things. I thought the dwarves were funny, and the music's great. It's a pretty harmless Disney movie to me, but my niece loved it, so that's really the enjoyment I get out of it. So,
oh, perfect. It's good to hear, because the online community is what it is.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't get it, but I'm like, oh yeah, there's a lot of things you could pretend to be outraged about this movie that I'm 100% sure you don't really care about, but I'm going to choose to not do that. But yes.
Oh man. So before we get into kind of meat and potatoes time, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better. So, as an actor, as improv, what movie kind of brought you into the world? Like, hey, I kind of want to do this for my life.
Oh man. So many 80s and 90s, like comedies. I mean, starting with Ghostbusters, that was my first love. Back to the Future, Home Alone. I was big, and it was like one of the first movies I saw in theaters, and I saw it like 5 times. Loved Home Alone. Then, going back and revisiting a lot of the John Hughes movies as I got older, as I became at the age of the kids in his movies. I think Tommy Boy was a huge one for me. What else? Great Outdoors, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. I mean, I was big on comedy. I've always been drawn to comedy. So it was like, anything that could make me laugh out loud, even when I had no clue why I was laughing, like so much of the innuendo going over my head. But yeah.
Oh yeah. I Ghostbusters. I love Ghostbusters. My son loves Ghostbusters. And I distinctly remember it growing up and like talking to people growing up and not knowing what it was. I only seen like part of it when I was like on TV in the 80s. And I'm just like, there's this movie, like the road broke up and people fell into the street. And people were like, no, they're like, you know what you're talking about. And then I saw the Ghostbusters show at Universal Studios, I think in 1990. And I'm just like, yes, this is it. This is my jam.
This is what I like. So obviously Ghostbusters came out like, I think the year before I was born, but I convinced my dad to take me to Ghostbusters 2 in theaters. And I went ballistic. I got so scared of Vigo the Carpathian coming out of the painting. I would just remember like running out of the theater, screaming at this poor man who I had begged to take me to this movie, and I was like, I will never go to the movies again. But needless to say, I did go back. Thank God.
Oh yeah. It's great. The movie I convinced my parents to take me to see was the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and my mom got so mad at that movie because I grew up in a very, very religious household. When Raphael says "damn,"
oh yes. Well, I think we were all a little horrified when he dropped the D word, but
yeah. I'm just like, my mom's like, yeah, no, you're sticking like all dogs go to heaven.
That's right. You can watch Milo and Otis. That's it.
Yes. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. Well, which is not a bad consolation prize, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say the SNL style of comedies, that was really my formidable, like, this is what I want to do. I'm a big guy. So when I was a kid, people would be like, you're Chris Farley. And comedically, I've always admired him a ton, but I've never identified with that style of like manic, wild, physical comedy. I've always been more of a writer. And in my head, like trying to be like, I like to play, very dumb characters who think they're smart, whereas he was so great at playing charmingly, inept characters that did not have any confidence at all. So I really always admired him, but it was funny because I couldn't avoid that comparison as like a chubby kid.
Mm-hmm.
It was always one where I idolize him, but I didn't want to be the same style of comedian as him.
Right. I mean, did you channel your inner Tommy boy there when you dressed up as Leia, right, to talk
Of course. Well, listen, I mean, just because I didn't want to be like him all the time didn't mean I couldn't draw some inspiration from the man.
Yeah. It's like I said, your work is great. And kind of, how'd you get into improv then? Is that something you started in college?
No, actually, I never stepped foot on stage or screen until I was like 24 years old. I was very kind of shy. I not socially shy, but I was very stage shy.
Mm-hmm.
And what had happened is I had worked in behind the scenes on a couple of film projects in the upstate New York area. And then one of those, I just found my way in front of the camera, and it got me a SAG card, which is very lucky and not common. So I do understand how incredibly lucky that was. And I have no delusions that that's how that should have gone. But it catapulted me to move to LA to pursue a career in film and TV, maybe as an actor. I didn't really have that set down. I just knew I wanted to work in the industry, and I was fine working behind the scenes. But when I got to LA, it was very quickly. I had read a book called Live from New York by Tom Shales that is like it's basically a collection of interviews with everybody that has worked behind the scenes of, guest hosted SNL. It's this giant aggregated like interview with all these different people. And that had led me to Second City, Groundlings, IO, UCB. So to me, it was like that was the first step I needed to take, was to get over my stage fright, take an improv class. And, once I tell this story, I'll say it briefly. Like, I got recruited out of central casting to the Church of Scientology the same day I saw my first improv show. And I just chose a different cult than Scientology. Like, I was like, I'm still joining a cult today. Make no mistake.
All right.
It's not going to be Scientology. Also, I did not know that I was going to the Church of Scientology. Two very attractive women asked me if I needed help with my career. And I was like, yes. And they gave me an address, and I didn't know where I was going because I was in Burbank and I hadn't been in LA before. I just moved there a day ago. So I drove to the Church of Scientology Celebrity Center, and I was like, oh, this is hilarious. I stayed there for 4 hours, just like collecting free DVDs to show my friends at parties and taking tests. I took like a 300 question test, like a personality exam or whatever. And then I went and saw the cast of The Office do the Armando show at IO, and I was like, this is more for me. So
that's awesome. Yeah, for me, in high school, I was in theater and drama for all 4 years. And as I was doing stuff in front of the audience, stuff like that, I realized I like to write a lot more and direct a lot more. So I went into the background, started writing, directing our plays and learning lights and sound, all that stuff. And then, took that in early YouTube days, was doing sketches and skits. And then, idiot me goes, this is going nowhere with this YouTube thing.
I'm just as guilty. I'll tell you what, if there's something that's about to pop off, you better believe I was doing it 2 years before and then completely abandoning it before it got popular. That's my MO.
Yeah, like I was going to have a character. I was going to dress up as Scream from the villain and review horror movies in 2007, 2008. I was going to do that. I started doing it. I go, yeah, this is going nowhere.
Oh yeah, especially in like the TikTok era, you'd be listen. I'd be begging you for scraps. I'd be like, let me be in one of your Scream videos, please. I got to say hi to the Distance Nerding podcast because they keep commenting, and those guys are awesome.
They are.
Hello, guys.
It's their hat that I'm wearing.
Yes, I noticed if my head fit normal hats, I would be wearing mine, but I do still keep it. I still have my Distance Nerding hat. It's a really, really nice hat, and I've tried to just give it to people that have like heads that can accommodate the hat, but I always struggle with it, and they usually leave it behind, and I just take it back because I don't really want to give it away. So it's still with me, and maybe if I could just lose this pesky 20 pounds of head weight, I can put that hat on. But
that's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, that's
this is to point out that backyard wrestling. There are backyard wrestling videos of me somewhere on the internet, not saying where.
I was a member of the the CCFW backyard wrestling took place on a trampoline. Me and my friend Trey Dosher were the sinister minister and the cool guy rabbi. We were the higher powers. And we wrestled. He was Jewish and I was Catholic, so we wrestled. We wrestled as men of the cloth, and that actually, if you want to really ensure that I lose all self-respect, that Backyard Wrestling Federation got too dangerous and turned into an online forum where we just cut promos. We wrote promos against each other, and then had a fantasy commissioner like type out how the matches went down. It just turned into a full RPG because too many people were spraining ankles and knees on the trampoline. And it was, I can't believe I did that, but
yeah. We got majorly hurt when we turned like 23. We're like, all right, we're done. We've been doing this for 8 years.
Yeah.
Now I'm 40. I'm like, is my back hurting because of that? Maybe. So, all right, Tom, I kind of want to get into like kind of your work and everything like that. You've done a variety of geek shows over the years across the internet, and you were a host on Geek 360. So I have a couple of questions on that. So, did you ever see the Poltergeist movie after the trailer ruined it for you? Are you still waiting for your Teen Witch remake?
Yes, I am. I love Teen Witch with all my heart, especially the rapping scene. That is my nothing beats top that.
You can go with this. You can
top that. Top that.
Yeah.
But the worst part is it's not even really rap. It's just it's just a guy saying sentences and then a girl following up with sentences with just a little more confidence.
Well, I mean, in fairness, Cool as Ice had already come out, so we can see what rap and movies can really be about.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
So, I mean, you've been in the geekdom for a long time. Kind of like, what led you into getting into something like Geek 360 and the other channels as well, leading into Guardians of the Palaxy?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was kind of a natural progression. Like I had been a fan of comic books and comic book movies and, all sorts of geek cultural stuff. Ironically, like my parents were not strict parents at all, but they never really facilitated like a comic book presence in our house. They were always like I don't know what it was. Like something in my mom's head said comic books were like unacceptable things for a kid to read, and like I had to read real books, which I, by the way, I'm saying that in quotes, even though I think graphic novels and comic books are plenty fine, and there's tons of data that kids who read comic books read at the same reading level as kids who read Tolstoy. That's probably not true. There's probably not tons of data on that, but I said it with enough confidence that somebody else pull that. But anyway, I had grown up as a fan of Marvel and DC and playing D&D and stuff like that. So when I got into comedy, I was introduced to a couple of people that did panels at San Diego Comic-Con and WonderCon, Chris Gore and a couple of other people, Chris Gore from Film Threat. And, I just started doing convention appearances on panels, usually in cosplay, which was something that I had never done before, but I would make costumes and do these cosplays, and we do stand-up in character, we do roasts in character. And from that, I just got immersed in the actual community because I'd see all the same people. And then the thing that really got me into the YouTube space was my friends from improv basically started New Rock Stars. So it's like, they had existed for a long time before me, but like they, we would always talk about it. They're like, oh, it'd be so fun to bring you in. And I'm like, I would love that. This is right up my alley. And, the stars never aligned. And then eventually Philip Molina brought me in, and Eric, and I started working together. And Eric and I had been on like 10 improv teams together. He's one of my oldest friends in comedy. Yeah. And, Philip, I didn't do a ton of live comedy with, but he and I had always remained friendly, and he had hired me for some non-geek stuff over at Defy Media. So we had a working relationship as well. So it just kind of worked out. And then I think, very early on, like Geek 360 was something I had done years before for the Stream.tv, I think it was called. Yeah. And it was just this experimental network of like mostly after shows. They had a very successful Pretty Little Liars after show. I hosted the Gotham after show, and sometimes we did the Arrowverse after shows. But they basically launched John Campea from Collider. Like he was, I think he had other things going on, but they really gave him a space to like create, and then that led to Collider. But anyway, So I think early on in New Rockstars, I was very uncomfortable because I had a huge inferiority or imposter syndrome. Like I thought I didn't know enough. So I just was like, I just acted insane and didn't say anything of value. And there's lots of old New Rockstars videos where I'm just like, it's like very cringy millennial humor where I'm just like doing a goofy voice, and it's very hard for me to watch now. But like eventually with Eric and with Philip's encouragement, I got the confidence to like speak up about my opinions, and like both of them demonstrated, both on purpose and by accident, that they could be wrong, about things and get a detail wrong, and life still continued. And that led me to, be more comfortable giving takes on these shows. And from there, I started freelancing. That freelance led to a full-time job. That full-time job led to me being laid off along with a lot of other people, which led me back to being a freelancer with them, which led me to moving home to New York to take a full-time job with my family business and pursue all my acting stuff on the East Coast, which led me to Guardians of the Palaxy with Whitney Van Lanningham, Brett Turley, and Mastertainment, three of my favorite people on earth. But I think I will say, just to debunk any sort of internet drama, the people at New Rockstars are some of my best friends, and I have zero ill will towards any of them. I've been in or to almost all of their weddings, and I would say, of course, when you get laid off, your feelings are hurt. And of course, like, I wish that I still had my job there because I loved getting to work there. But in terms of ill will, the reason I'm not on New Rockstars now is because I don't live in California and they shoot stuff live. It's like, trust me, if I lived in California, I would be doing stuff with them. So I want to ease everyone's pain and suffering. There is no drama between me and them. I love them very much. I talk to Eric all the time. Eric has been very kind about my sobriety, and as has Brandon and Zach, and they're some of my best friends. So that's all I can say. But that dodoesn't mean you shouldn't watch Guardians of the Palaxy, and we shouldn't crush them. We shouldn't crush them into atoms.
Well, I mean, I especially when I watch Guardians of the Palaxy, you, MT, and Whitney just seem like you are just having a blast, just having a good time, and not really having to be. I'm not saying that other bigger channels have to be wary what they say to not offend other people, but you guys seem to just take it as ad hoc, and your improv really shows there too.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I would say like it's basically like we take our group chat and like fine tune it very slightly and put it on in a video podcast form. Like it's basically the conversations that we would just be having with each other about these properties, and then we're like, let's put that on. Let's tape that on Zencaster for an hour.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's how I started one of my podcasts, is with my co-host Salem, because we worked together professionally for over 7 years now, and just like every day, like, what new horror movies did you watch this weekend? And we just like, you know what? Let's just record it, and that's where we're at.
Perfect.
141 episodes later.
That's the way to do it, though, man. Honestly, I think that's obviously, like, that was the recipe, right?
Yeah.
Good for you, man. That's awesome.
Now, with that, I have to ask, for me, like, when I'm watching a movie and knowing I have to review it maybe at some point in time, do you ever have the problem of like deprocessing that, like just enjoying the movie versus like I have to do it for work?
Yeah, I got there with Marvel movies, which I started off. The MCU started before I was working in any professional capacity on that stuff, and I was just a fan. Like, I saw Iron Man, and I was like, "This is awesome! I can't believe that we have this live action MCU." And like, even all the way up until like the second Avengers movie before I really got involved. But by 2022, I was pretty worn out of these movies, and also like I was more worn out around the like having to come up with takes on everything and feeling like I can't just say I love everything, because here's the reality for me. I love the process of filmmaking. I love how a group of hundreds of people come together to make a piece of art. I'm never going to leave a movie and be like, that was straight garbage start to finish. Like, I'm going to find something. I'm also kind of an optimist, so it's like I'm going to find something that I enjoy, and I'm going to find a silver lining in it. However, I will say with Marvel, just to get back to your question, I got to the point where I was obsessively breaking down the movies while I was watching them for the first time. Like, I'm like, is that an Easter egg? I'm on my phone. I'm not really paying attention. I'm taking notes. I'm like making voice memos, whispering in the theater, like, remember to Google that name. And it's like, I think really for me, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was like my breaking point, because there was so much mystery going into that movie about, are we going to see Tom Cruise as an Iron Man variant? Are we going to see all of this and that? That I really remember the first time I went and saw Doctor Strange, I did not enjoy it, but not because it was a bad movie, but because I was just watching it like a math equation. I was like, well, when is this cameo? When is this cameo? What variants are we going to get here? Who's going to show up? We know Professor Xavier is showing up. Who else is going to be on that, like, you know, in that council? And then, like, even the post-credit scene, it was like, what does this all mean? Is Charlize Theron in the MCU now? When will we see her next? Is she going to be in the next movie? And it just, it just drove me. It drove me kind of ruined it for me for a little while.
Right.
Now I was able to get it back, you know, because through the help of talking to my friends who do this, they're like, yeah, you know, sometimes there's going to be movies that's unavoidable, but, you know, now I go in and I'm very lucky. I get to see a lot of movies, and I subscribe to the AMC like membership, so I can see a couple free movies a week. So I'll just go see something twice, and if I know I'm going to see something twice, I'll just watch it the first time for fun. Now, I watched Madam Web once. You know, I knew that was going to be a one and done. I watched Craven once. Like, I was like, I'm not going back to those movies because they don't care. You know, like that. Like, Sony does not, like, they don't care enough to make those movies good, and it sucks because they cast fantastic actors. They bring characters we want to see brought to life, and they basically, like, it's like ordering something off of Temu. Like, it's like, it looks beautiful in the picture, and then you see it, and you're like, this isn't what I ordered.
No wonder it costs $1.
Yeah, exactly. No wonder this like giant igloo freezer cost $3.99, and it showed up, and it's like this big. It's like, yeah, you get what you pay for, man, for sure.
Yeah, I said when Alien Romulus came out, Salem and I watched it twice. We watched it twice just because, first off, IMAX broke in the middle of it and they couldn't fix it. So we had to come back and watch it. But, you know, we go, all right, first time we're seeing this, we're enjoying this movie as an Alien movie. And that's all we're doing right now. Then we had to go back and watch it and start taking notes and everything like that. So I have a notepad with me as I'm watching these movies. You know, I do review 3 or 4 movies a week. And, you know, and it's really hard.
I mean, like, that is a tool of the trade. And, like, you know, I think probably, like, you know, the level you're doing it, you probably get to a point now too where, like, you know, when you can take a note, you're not going to miss something. Like, you can bring, like, I mean, unfortunately, movies are formulaic. Especially big tentpole movies. It's like, okay, you know, there's that great app Run P that's like tells you exactly when you can go take a piss during a movie because like nothing of any consequence happens. And I remember when Avengers Endgame came out, and it was like, you know, it was like, oh, wow, okay, this movie's 3 hours and 6 minutes long. I'm going to need to know when I can go to the bathroom and not miss something. And, like, they were pretty dead on. That was like that. I think it was like the beginning of the Ant-Man getting unblasted out of space. Like, there's like 2 minutes of just walking around. And it was like, that was the time to go pee. Now they're counting on me moving to the bathroom with urgency there because, you know, sometimes I like to mosey. But
seeing the second Cassie Lang.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
we're collecting Cassie Lang's like Infinity Stones right now.
Hey, you know, each version of Ant-Man will have his own Cassie Lang, right?
Exactly. It's like Spinal Tap drummers. They're just going to be a different one for every. Yeah,
exactly. It's like I said, it's hard to do that. Like I said, and you know, with being in the indie horror stuff too, I make sure when I'm reviewing movies, I'm not touching things that are people I know in their movies.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know, and obviously you're part of SAG too. Do you ever see that? Like, oh, I might be talking about a project I know people personally involved with.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like, you know, I used to laugh when, you know, friends of mine that were comedians would rail on sitcoms on Twitter and Instagram. I'm like, you know, you're 1 degree of separation from like the leads of that show. And like, it's like, you know, it happens to me a lot. There were like, you know, friends of mine are, you know, either supporting actors or like, you know, some of them sometimes they're the lead actors and stuff. And it's like, yeah, I might have to talk about this movie and I might have to be a little like, I'll give you a perfect example.
Mhm.
Jeff Loveness wrote Quantumania. Jeff Loveness is an old friend of mine who got me my start on Jimmy Kimmel. He wrote this Princess Leia sketch.
Okay.
And he's the other Jedi in that sketch. Now, he was in line to write Kang Dynasty, after this. And like Quantumania came out. And by all accounts, what he wrote versus what showed up were not two things in the same, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I think like, I spoke critically about Quantumania, knowing that like anything I put on Twitter, my friend can read. He follows me on Twitter. I follow him. We're Facebook friends. I don't generally post a lot of stuff to Facebook just because
Mhm.
I don't have like a brand or whatever on Facebook. I'm just like post pictures of my nieces and nephews there. So it's mostly just my friends on Facebook. But like, that was like, to me, it would have felt a little more dishonest to be like, this movie is a home run, like, I think he obviously knew that movie was not a home run, but I don't think I don't think you blame him entirely for it. And I know Jeff's written some of the best episodes of Rick and Morty. He's written some great comic books. He's an incredibly talented writer. And I think anyone who's ever sold a script or written a script or sold any kind of idea knows that what you create versus what gets shown in the final product are two very, very different animals. And like, but that to me was like the perfect example of like, I couldn't just go on New Rockstars and be like, Quantumania checked all the boxes for me, guys. It was I think first and foremost, the script is what locked it in. And then,
Yeah, I mean, you guys have to straddle that fine line of like, if you like something, you get called a shill, right? And
yeah. And I don't, honestly, I wish I was a shill. I would love some shill money. I live with my mom. Okay, she just walked by in the background. If I had shill money, I'd have a chateau. Instead, I'm fresh out of rehab, living with my mother. So
you're saying that celeb thing that says online that you're worth $18 million isn't true?
Yes, no, that is off by about $17.99999 million. So I would say whatever. I think I just hit a DraftKings March Madness bet for $14. So I got $14 at least.
I mean, yeah, it's. I said, saying your opinion online is difficult to do because you're going to get come at from all different angles, and it's
and we live in a discourse era where like you have to take a strong opinion on everything, and usually it's way more profitable to be negative about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like negativity just equals clicks. It's like, I've seen plenty of good journalists resort to kind of clickbaity reactions to shit that they don't even really feel that way about. And it's like, I know you don't feel about that way about this because we're texting a completely different opinion about this. But it's like, I mean, like, listen, Snow White by all accounts is about to bomb in theaters, right? Like that's the update. That movie was dead and buried before it ever came out because of an interview Rachel Ziegler did 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, doesn't make any sense when you see the movie because all the stuff she says isn't in the movie is in the movie. So I hate to get excited about this, but I'm like, wait, how did they not walk that back and like have her be like, all right, well, I was not as red carpet trained back then, but everyone who loves the original Snow White is going to be very happy with this Snow White. It includes most of the elements of the original movie, except for its live action. And we have to expand upon like the dialogue a little bit. I don't get it because I saw that movie today and I'm like, this is a perfect family movie for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, not a perfect movie, but a great movie to take your family to the theater to see. I don't understand why it's bombing, but I do know there's a lot of people making money posting reactions and hot takes about it online to say that it sucks and this is another catastrophic Disney failure. And like, by all accounts, they're right, I guess. So I don't really know what to say.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's like I've talked to people on the podcast that are professional movie critics. And they've reviewed movies, and we did the best of 2024 for horror movies. And the points I'm talking about, like, oh, I didn't really think about that. I'm like, oh, well, that's just my take on it.
Yeah.
But, it's, we always have categories where I try to say at least 3 good things or 3 bad things about any movie and give it a fair rating. And it's just a fine line to walk. But
I mean, listen, like Gal Gadot is like, she's goofy as hell as the evil queen. Like, I'm not sure where her performance lands for me. I mean, I'm a fan of hers as Wonder Woman. I think I like her. I think she played that role well. But like, I mean, like she's over the top, but she's also playing a character called the Evil Queen who does not have another name.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like she's literally the Evil Queen. I wasn't looking for a grounded performance there.
Yeah,
So,
it's so weird. Like, we are very critical of these. This is a kids movie, right?
yeah.
And they're caricatures. Every
Yeah.
character is a character of
Absolutely.
the.
And they're meant to be digested by 8-year-olds. Like they're
Yeah.
meant for an 8-year-old to understand the complexities of this character. You're not supposed to be like, wow, there was so much hidden trauma inside Snow White. It's like, nope, her parents were both killed and she's very sad about it. And then her stepmother made her become a housekeeper. And it's like,
Yeah.
and now she talks to animals and dwarves. So it's like, that's it. That's what it is. We don't have to dig into a deeper metaphor there, guys.
Yeah.
I got it for you. You can trust me on this.
Exactly.
I just saw it.
Yeah. All right. So Tom, I kind of get back into your works. And so you were essentially, I'm going to say this, the Wilson character in the middle.
Yes. And that's high praise. I mean, I think that actor, may he rest in peace, was phenomenal. I think he had maybe a little more impact on the show than I did, but yes, similar gag of like to never truly be seen.
Mm-hmm. So what was like then being able to see your face and have lines in the show?
It was amazing. Honestly, it was a relief for me because I had, I'm in the credits.
Mm-hmm.
I have pictures, behind the scenes of the show. So my family knows that I haven't made this up. But other than that, there's no proof. And no matter how many times I explained to family members, like, this is the character, this is the joke of it, I would still have aunts being like, why don't we see your face? And I'm like, I don't work at Warner Brothers or ABC. I don't make that decision. I'm going to try to spend the next, 2 years of my life charming these people into giving me a line. And it worked. And then once that worked, I was like, okay, now you've seen my face. It's just as mediocre as you remember it. Now you've seen my acting. It's just as mediocre as you remember it. But at least we can put to bed all the rumors that like there was just because people would be like, is it just a like dummy? Because like sometimes I'd be like banging away on the keyboard, but other times I'd just be sitting there like moving the mouse. So you could barely see me move. But it was like the job of a lifetime. I got to say, like.
Yeah, other times you just have a lady sitting in your lap and she makes out with you, right?
That's right. And for 8 hours to the point where I never wanted to see her again and she never wanted to see me again. But, no, I'm just kidding. I kid, Jesse. I kid if you're out there. It was a delightful 8 hours for me. I'd do it all over again. Except for you're married with children. So I will respect the sanctity of marriage.
But it's so weird going back and watching it because my wife watches that show on repeat. One of like her top 7 shows that she watches. You without facial hair.
Yes. Well, me and Charlie, the kid who played Axel, like we had to shave like during shoot days because we'd get there at 6 a.m. and by 6 p.m. we'd have like little whiskers popping out of our faces. So it was like we'd be in his trailer because he had a way nicer trailer than me, like shaving our faces down. Like, yeah, I mean, I was old when I booked that. I think I was like 31 playing 18. So I was already pushing it. They had to use a lot of foundation on my face to like be like, he's a boy. He's just a boy. Don't worry.
That's awesome though. Like I said, you pop up on lots of stuff that we watch and you done comedy, thriller, nerdy stuff and horror. Do you have a preference when it comes to picking roles?
I mean, my preference is that they pay, baby. No, I love getting to do, like, I got to work with Christopher Guest a few times, and that was huge for me. Like, I like doing an improvised comedy, on film with these powerhouses. Like, I worked with Ed Begley Jr. twice, and he was just incredible. It was like, he's everything you want him to be as this, like, institution of comedy and this, like, kind of like lifelong goofball. It's like, oh, that's what he is in real life too. He's the exact same thing in real life. He's amazing. But then, I really enjoyed getting to do a show called Hunters on Amazon Prime, where I played a horrible, horrible, horrible character, but it was so off brand for me. And it was just such a weird, it was so surreal to be there shooting this show and I filmed like 15 days on it, on and off. Like, it was a long time we were filming, and it was like, it was all so emotional and heavy. And I'm like chasing these kids around, and then they're like yelling cut. And I'm like, what do you do for school? Or do you play sports? And then they're like, action. And I'm like, I'm going to kill you. And it's like, like we're going, like, it's such a weird, surreal thing, but it was an interesting thing to do. I mean, most of my internet and acting presence had been kind of goofy, lighthearted stuff. And it was like, well, here's about the heaviest evil shit you can do. So I I enjoyed that. And, I, as a lifelong scaredy cat, I've enjoyed getting to do the last couple of projects I've done have been horror kind of slanted, like Disinvited and now Screamboat, and soon to be another movie near and dear to our hearts, the Fairfield County Four. But it's like I haven't shot that yet, but by all intents and purposes, it's going to be a great time. The cast seems very nice in the group chat, so I'm loving life there. But doing Screamboat is this like ridiculous horror movie, which I can't say literally anything about or I'll get in trouble. But it was like, it was wild. And then, doing the Disinvited, I'm like, oh man, this is like, my character's kind of an ass in it. So it's like, I'm still being funny, but then I get brutally murdered, which I will spoil because that movie's out. So, so I'm sorry if you haven't seen it. Trust me, you won't miss me. But I've enjoyed. It's demystified horror movies. Having to go watch horror movies for work and be a part of horror movies for work has demystified the illusion I had of trouble shaking. Because for a long time, the reason I didn't like horror movies is I don't like being startled, and I couldn't shake the feeling I got from being startled after the movie ended. I would still be on edge for a couple of hours. So now, through kind of just seeing more horror movies, that's gone for me, and I can genuinely enjoy them. Like, I haven't seen The Monkey yet, but I know enough about it that I'm like, I want to see The Monkey. I want to see The Monkey, and I want them to make a different monkey movie for like every scenario. Like, I want them to make a theme park movie version of The Monkey. Like, replace Final Destination and Saw with The Monkey as the new franchise.
Ooh.
The monkey goes to space. Why is everyone on the space station dying? The monkey goes to a professional sporting event. The monkey goes to whatever, the G7 conference or whatever. Like, why are people dying? How many horrific ways can we kill people in one setting with one cursed item? That's what I want. That's my
the monkeyverse.
Yes. Create the monkeyverse, you cowards. What's his name? Osgood Perkins?
Yeah.
Osgood, create the monkeyverse and kill me in a very interesting way.
Exactly. Kind of reminds, like, I had an idea. I've been talking to people for a while now about this. I want to create the Beardverse, where I want to have independent creators and writers and just do their own version of a killer beard.
Yes.
Around the world, just different cultures taking on it.
Yes.
And it's just basically beards coming to Earth as aliens to kill people.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
But I'm just great. Like, it'd be really fun to do. I
concur.
Yeah. I mean, with that getting into horror, like you said, my first time being on a movie set was with Josh Brucker, and I'm like, you were shooting the film at 3 a.m. on a pot farm.
Mm-hmm.
And
as you do in an independent film. Where are you filming? Wherever they'll let us.
Yeah, pretty much. And then there's like cannon fire going on from the farms around there, and like coyotes going off. I'm like, what am I doing here?
How did I get here?
Yeah, I told my co-host, I'm like, if I'm dead, if I die, this is my last known location. Avenge me.
Yeah. Please send out a search party.
No, but I'm excited for this upcoming June here, just to be able to meet you in person and work with you, because
I'm really excited too, man. It's great. This will actually be the first thing that I've filmed since I got sober. So it's like meaningful to me too, because, I wasn't necessarily under the influence while I was filming things, but I was certainly hungover or immediately messed up afterwards. So it's to me, it represents a fresh start, and it's an opportunity to do what I really love, which is acting and improvising and with people that I really admire. So it's a win-win for me, baby.
Yeah. And honestly, I've noticed in a lot of independent, especially horror stuff, improv is key to make everything work.
Yeah, you kind of need to, it's like spackle, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need it to kind of like smooth out and connect things, but like you also need it in moderation. You don't want too much spackle, or you've got a glut. So
yeah. I've talked to writers and directors in the indie world. They're like, so many people are like, what I write is gospel. You have to follow this to.
Well, I've worked in that situation. I mean, a lot of sitcoms, especially multicam, they're like, you will read this as it is written. You can't put an or an as where there's an is or a the or a to. It's like, you say the exact words or you get fired. And it's like, all right, fair enough. Listen, sitcoms have existed for 80 years. I've existed for 41. I'm going to take sitcoms know what they're doing. So,
Yeah. So any other things that you kind of look for in the role for getting paid? Do you look for you getting more towards like the drama?
I'm just kidding. Yes,
yeah, I know.
I really like to bring. My dream is to do roles that have sincerity and heart to them. That the comedy comes as part of a package. I like being funny, of course. Everyone likes to get a laugh. I have stand up and I have improv as an outlet to do something that is purely for laughs. So when I'm acting, which is always something that has made me uncomfortable to be like, I'm an actor, but it's like, I want to do something that is multidimensional. I want to be able to be emotional, make people feel things that are not just like, oh, that silly goat, like that. Oh, that guy's a goose. He's a silly goose. I want people to be like, oh, he's making me a little sad, or he's making me feel something. That to me is a dream. And then you hit him with a joke, you pull the rug out from under him, and then you get sincere again. It's the old bait and switch. So yeah, that's my dream.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Like I said, as Horror Dads is continuing to grow, I'm getting to be more in front of the camera again. Obviously, I do the show, and just like it took me years to get out of behind the camera stuff.
Sure, yeah. Well, I'm glad you're doing it. I'm glad we've got you here now.
Yeah. It's been a blast. Like I said, we're writing scripts. I have roles with you in mind, honestly, that I want to do.
Hey, I'm available. And I'm not that far away, so
exactly.
And I've got a working car and a valid driver's license.
That's fine. Even we'll get you. No, awesome. So Tom, we're getting kind of the wrap up here. So talk about not being a big horror fan, but what is your favorite scary movie?
Ooh, okay. Well, I have seen some of the classics. I will say this: the first time I enjoyed a horror movie, genuinely enjoyed a pure horror movie, was. I was in a class. I went to SUNY Oswego, which is SUNY State University of New York. Oswego is a school right on Lake Ontario that gets like during the winter, like half the classes are canceled because the weather is so bad. So it's a big drinking college. So you can imagine why I went there. But my senior year, well, what would have been my senior year? My first senior year of 3, which I never finished. I had this woman from NYU who was a film studies teacher. Her husband became an administrator at Oswego, so she moved here to teach for like 2 years, and she taught like a film analysis class. And we watched John Carpenter's Halloween, the original John Carpenter's Halloween. And we watched it in a way that we examined like the meaning behind like Michael Myers and these serial killers that use knives and what that means, and the art of the perfect final girl. And I understood this movie as more than just a thing that was designed to scare me. Like I was like, there are moments in this movie that are designed to scare me, but there are other moments in this movie that are designed to like delight me and entertain me, make me think. And I just remember that original, what was it, 1978 Halloween or 79?
78.
That was my it wasn't 78 when I watched it. It was like 2003. But I just loved it. I really loved watching it. I watched it at home. Then I watched it in a lecture hall on a projector, like in a big college lecture hall. So it wasn't a very scary setting. However, when I walked home at night, I was like looking around the quad, like this is exactly where Michael Myers would be, looking to kill someone. So
he's just over the state border in Illinois for me. So
yeah. Oh yes, exactly.
Yeah, Halloween. He did make my horror sleeve.
Oh, that is awesome. That is so cool.
Yeah, I love it. Halloween was my gateway horror movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a great movie. I mean, Donald Pleasence and Jamie Lee Curtis are just, whew.
Yeah, that movie is what made my friends and I get a camcorder and start making our own Halloween shorts.
But that's what it's all about. Movies that can do that. Like to be a part of something like that would be amazing.
Yeah. All right, Tommy. Next question is going to be the hardest question ever. We ask every guest: practical or CGI?
Oh, I mean, I'm a Muppets man. I'm practical all the way. I will say this: I've been killed with practical effects, and I've been killed with CGI, and the practical effects look way better. There's just something about a rubber hose with a tank pumping blood through it coming out of your chest that makes you feel alive, even though you're dying.
Yep.
So I'm a practical man.
Oh yeah. I sat in the makeup chair last year for a couple hours, and I had the tubes running down my head, down my shirt into a cornfield just for my death scene, and it was amazing. I loved it.
It's incredible what they can do. And by the way, all respect to CGI artists. It is a tall task to make something computer animated look real, and it's amazing what they do. But for me, blood spurts and liquid latex all day.
Yeah. We only had I think you're like our 82nd guest, and only two people have ever said CGI.
Sure.
One was a guy who does CGI for a living.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He does all the CGI for like the Super Bowl and stuff like that.
Oh, no way. That's awesome.
And Smile. He did the special effects for Smile.
Oh, wow. Well. That's so cool. That's really cool.
And Bruce Valanche.
Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense. He's kind of like a Batman villain, a non-evil Batman villain. Like, he seems like he would just answer something contrarian.
Oh, yeah, he was an absolute hoot on the show.
I bet. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
All right, so Tommy, if you could work, doesn't have to be horror. If you were able to get a job in the IP or franchise, what would it be? What's your dream one?
Oh man. Well, they've already completely run Indiana Jones into the ground, so I can't say that. You know, I'd really like to be. This is going to be a very specific call. I want to be John Goodman's son in a Monsters Inc. sequel. I want to be the voice of Sully Jr. In a Monsters Inc. sequel. And if not that, then Star Wars distance nerding. You're absolutely right. If not that, then of course Star Wars. Of course.
But if you're a Star Wars, would you be a scoundrel, Sith, or Jedi?
Oh, I mean, I would rather just be a droid. I'd rather be a quippy droid.
You just want to
but I want to be in the suit, so it's just a completely impractical. They're like, this droid is huge. Droids are supposed to be like stealthy and like, move around and kind of fluid. It's like, no, this droid is banging into stuff.
But it has to be your voice because we obviously didn't recognize Simon Pegg in Force Awakens inside that suit.
Yeah, that's true. More credits. This gets you 4 portions.
Exactly. But I can see you dressing up and almost doing like the Gollum route. Well, you're the character on screen that they digitize, but I can imagine you dressing up in the costume and doing everything.
Yes. That's what I want. That's my dream. If it's just talking about dreams, that's what I want.
Yeah, because I just watched kind of something about Who Framed Roger Rabbit last night and talking about the guy who voiced Roger Rabbit. He was on set and demanded a Roger Rabbit costume.
Yes, I heard that. Yes, I heard that. It's so funny. They're just like, okay, sure, no problem. Please.
Exactly. So, Tom, any advice for people getting into the field of acting or improv or even just YouTube stuff?
Yes. Easiest piece of advice, watch a lot of stuff. Watch a lot of stuff and figure out what you like and what you don't like. Consider it work and don't get off your phone while you're doing it. That's just me telling myself that. But sit down and watch movies that you don't think you have a grasp of and see if something clicks in it. And then if you like things, watch the entire filmography of a certain director. If you like someone's movie, watch everything they've done. Watch the first thing they ever directed, watch the last thing they've ever directed, and see how they've changed. Like what they've gotten better at, what was there at the very beginning. Because there are some directors that's like, wow, you've had this the whole time. I mean, like, it's incredible. And then the other thing I would say is like, this is advice take it from a person who has not done this. You can talk about it forever, but until you start writing that script or until you roll the camera, like searching, like, what is it? Perfection, whatever. Seeking perfection is the easiest way to guarantee you'll never do anything.
Yeah.
So if you've got, a half-baked idea, start baking it, start writing it and see if you can bake the idea. Because otherwise you're going to end up just, with 100 voice memos saying this would be a funny script. And that's no way to live life. And I'm saying that from personal experience, not because I'm being judgmental, which I am. I am judgmental, but
yeah, like I said, with Salem and myself, we are writing scripts now, and I have a family. He is able to be with his dog at his house. And I just go over there. We just get some food and we have some drinks and we just kind of hash it out.
And it's the best, man. I love, like, I'm working on something with a friend right now, and we meet at this deli, one of the only Jewish delis in Rochester, and we get breakfast there like once a week. And it's like, it's my favorite thing I do during the week is sitting there and, like, knocking ideas back and forth for this project. And it's like, I have a 9-to-5 job that I love, and I still audition and I work on other stuff, but it's like this like hour and a half a week I spend with this guy working on this project is some of my favorite times. So,
yeah, like I said, I got the bug years ago, and I'm just running with it now.
Well, I'm so glad because it brought us together. So
exactly. All right, you ready for your random horror trivia question?
Oh my God, yes. Okay.
All right. Tony Todd is known for playing what character in this horror trilogy?
Candyman.
Yes.
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 Tony Todd, R.I.P. I saw him in a Best Buy once, and he was very charming.
Yeah. He also plays the giant in the new Indiana Jones game.
Yay! All right. I mean, what a voice. Wasn't he the voice of one of the villains on The Flash as well?
I think so. But I know he voiced Venom in Spider-Man 2, the video game. So
that makes sense.
Yeah. Awesome. So, Tommy, before we go, where can people find you, follow, or learn everything about you?
You can follow me on at Tommy Bechtold on Instagram. I'm on X. I'm on Instagram. Where else am I? You can watch me on YouTube. I believe my YouTube handle is Beck Tech Films, which is we got to work on that. But really, I would, if you want to be near and dear to my heart, follow me on at Guardians of the Palaxy. That's my podcast with my best friends. So check me out there.
Yes, like I said, I cannot recommend that show enough. It's just a blast. Like I said, just good friends getting together and just talking their nerdy passions.
Oh, thanks so much, Graveyard. I appreciate that.
Of course. All right. Well, thank you, Tommy, for joining us, and follow us on all social media at Pod Out at Night. While I'm still currently unemployed, I am still streaming during the day, during the week. That's going away in 2 weeks. So luckily got a job. So we'll be back, and follow us on social media at Pod Out at Night. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.